Hello ladies and gentlemen, and in this week's video we are taking one of, in fact, my favourite Snowdrops shot from last week's video, and we are going to edit it. It's not a particularly difficult edit this week, but it should be interesting nonetheless. Let's take a look just after this. Now, I'm actually a bit late in making this video because I got back from the Snowdrops trip and was incredibly ill. In fact, the day after that, I completely lost my voice. I couldn't speak for a day or so. Not very well at all, so it's been sort of hovering and hovering. I knew I needed to make it. I knew I needed to do this video, but I've kind of put it off. So it was a little while between actually doing the edit for this and actually getting the edit, getting ready to do this video, because I always do my edits first, and then I redo the edits so that I'm not spending absolutely ages doing an edit video, because you don't want to watch too long edit videos. You just want to see what I do, right? But in the interim, I actually had this picture printed, and I just wanted to show you. There it is. You can see the lights are shining off it. There it is on a greetings card. And I'm really pleased with it. Now, I did say in the video I can't really tell you what the lens is like until I get the images back into Lightroom. Well, I've got them back into Lightroom now, and it's really good. I mean, the sharpness of this thing is just absolutely amazing. So let's jump over into Lightroom now and take a look at the picture that we're going to edit. So there we go. This is it, and we're going to start. Now, this is the finished edited version, because I wanted to show you the finished edited version, and I wanted to show you roughly where I've cropped it as well, because we're cropping the 6:9. I know I don't always get these crops right, because I spend absolutely ages trying to get these things right in the edits and things. So let's take that as an idea. I'm cropping just above there, and we're cropping the bottom of this thing off, and I'll actually jump over into the image as it was originally. This is the completely raw thing. Now, I was very lucky at this point. I'd managed to wait until those skies were clear, and it was a blue sky on the day that I went, even though there were lots of clouds around as well. And you can actually see that just up here. You can see where some of the cloud was just over it. Now, let's take a crop from this, and we'll do the same crop as we did before. I'm always cropping 4:5, 8:10. That gives you a relatively standard size. So if I want to then put these into frames, which is what I've been doing recently, I've got a 16:20 that I've been printed up of the lions that I had the other week. That means that I've got a relatively good crop. Those are the dimensions, the aspect ratio that's important. That's why I'm always using 4:5. Plus, it works on Instagram as well. So we can just see that's about there. That's about right. Very simple to do. Nothing much to worry about. Now, if we jump over here to this video, you'll see this image. You'll see the big difference here is that I've done a lot of work getting some of these odd marks off, and we'll do that in just a second. But before we do, let's do a very basic grade. So we'll take those down, take those up. We'll take our whites just before they do that, and we'll take our blacks. You can have a little bit of black coming in on the thing. Okay. Something I'm not incredibly happy with on this, actually. I think that the highlights need to come up a bit. I think that it does need to have that... Where are we? Sort of there. It helps brighten the image up a little bit, so we'll do that. And actually, I think that the shadows being here not helping as much. You see, if I bring them down, look at what that's doing to the image. You say, I think that's a much better image. I think that it's a little bit contrasty without having to put too much contrast into it. So we'll stick with that. In terms of texture, I always like turning up the texture, especially on some of these photos, because actually this one in particular, where you've got a really these lovely, really sharp bits in here, you really want to make sure that comes through in the image. Clarity wise, I'm not going to do anything with it, but actually on the dehazing, now if you normally what I do is I take the haze off an image, which should look something like that. That's not what I want here. What I actually want to do is add a little bit of haze, and it seems to be kind of counterintuitive, but what I'm trying to do is brighten it up without using that exposure, without boosting the exposure too much, because if we do that, then some of these white things, they're going to blow out, and it's just not going to be quite as pleasing. The final thing, of course, that we do on this first panel is we're going to add some vibrance in there, and we do want to add in a good amount of vibrance. So because the important thing is that these green colours here, we want to really bring those green colours out. Now, you'll notice that it doesn't always come through on the pictures that you'll see when it's finished. That's okay. That's fine. We're going to do something about that now. Because if we go down to the tone curve, we will select the tone curve here. And what we have done in the past is just brought this tone curve up just a little bit. This is the way to do it. It doesn't need to be much, but it just changes those shadows a bit. It just brings those shadows out a little bit more, and I quite like that. So we will go with that. Other things, because we've got a little bit of what are we doing here? We've got a little bit of sharpening on here, which again is something I'm doing with a lot. I'm just sort of having 100% sharpening on there and 27% I'm not sure is right. 27 sharpening on there, and actually you can see in this sharpening box, if I bring this over to, let's say this part of the image, although that's not the relatively sharp part of the image, maybe up here. If I turn this off, you can see that actually the sharpness does add a little bit into that, so that's kind of important. We're going to remove this as well. It recognizes the lens. Look, the Sigma Macro 105 2.8, so it's a really good one. For me, we're not doing anything else with this. We're not playing with this anymore, really. I'm not. You don't need to. You don't need to do anything else with this. The next thing, actually, the biggest thing, is to get rid of some of these dots, because they don't look very nice. And in order to do that, we are going to squidge down into the photo a little bit, which microphone's in the way, which is Alt. Is it Control and Plus and Control and Plus and Control and Minus. And you know what? I've been doing those commands for so long, I don't even know what they are. I just do them with my fingers. Okay, so we'll make a circle which is roughly the size of this. Click on that, and it goes away. There's another one up there we just want to get rid of. There's these things here as well, which the tiny little dots, but when you look at the overall image, you want to make sure that it's not they're not in there. It looks a bit nicer, a bit different. Can I do this? Yeah, there we go. Now, to get this hand, just in case you don't know, you press the space bar, and you can move the image up and down, which is kind of useful. I'm going to do this once more here, where we've got a much bigger thing, and we're going to do it again there. And I think that's everything. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Okay, we will go on now then to the next bit. If I can remember how to zoom. Oh yeah, okay. It helps if I'm in the right window. Zoom out again, and we're going to go on to this bit here, which is kind of nice. This is we'll bring in a thing. I'm not explaining this very well. I do apologise. Sometimes when you've not been very well, sometimes you want to change a few things. Now, if I go back over I tell you what, I'm going to cut this bit out, and then we'll do another thing again. So let's go back over here. Okay, so the next thing that we have to do is to do any of the linear gradients that we want. So we're going to go on to the linear gradient thing. We want to reduce some of the lightness up here. It doesn't need to be too much, actually. The mistake, I think, that you might make is to just make this far too dark, and it doesn't need to be that. It's literally just a touch. Just a tiniest of changes. It'll make sense when we bring everything else in, and also we're going to do another one of those up from the bottom, but this is going to change a little bit. Now, the other thing that we might want to do here is actually change some of the. I will show you. I will demonstrate by showing. It's probably a bit easier. I'm going to cover most of this. Okay. And we're going to take some of the temperature things on here, and we're going to take some of this down. We're going to move it towards the blue, and we're going to move some of this towards the green as well. And it's just purely to get the blues and the greens a little bit more sort of in your face, and then we're going to darken the whole thing down, because what I want ultimately, that's too much, that's better. What I want ultimately is for the snowdrop itself to be nice and bright and shiny, to be the thing that your eye is drawn to in the final image. So yeah, there we go. I think that's everything for linear gradients. The next thing that we're going to have to do is radial gradients, which are here. First things first, this little bit here is quite... it's the sort of thing that you'd want to brighten up, because you've got this nice bit of colour coming in here. I think it's going to be quite nice to highlight that a bit. So we're going to up our clarity to about that, and we're going to up our exposure, because that's kind of what we do. Take that whites off to about that. I think that's nice. I think that's okay. And we're then going to duplicate that and move on to the next bit down, which is kind of there. Let's see what we're going to do here. Maybe we'll move this up a little bit here. We've got our basic settings dialed in. Perhaps a bit bigger, perhaps a bit more off center like that, and we'll take some of the brightness down here, and clarity is about right. But you know what else I want to do, because this green up here is about right. This looks about right, and that's why we changed the green when we were doing the main thing. But this green here looks a bit too green, a bit too in your face. So actually, I'm going to take that down a lot. That's about right. So it looks a bit more naturalistic. That's what I'm after. And again, we'll take this and duplicate it and move it down here, because we want to light up just a little bit the inside of this area here. Now, I think we'll bring the saturation back up here. We're going to boost this back up like the other one is, because we want that colour in here. We want that light to be emanating from here. It doesn't. It's that in that case, it's not something that feels natural, but it is something that actually makes the image a little bit more pleasing. Which, of course, is why we're doing it in the first place. So there is that. Right. What we're also going to do, I think, is these three leaves. We're going to just modify a little bit. So if I make a thing here and stretch it out like this, to put it on here. With this one, we're going to, again, it's clarity up here, and then the exposure is, where are we? About there. All right, and I've got a feeling that we'll do the same thing pretty much for each of those flowers. So let's just duplicate that, and it's a nice quick process. Look, it's a nice easy to follow process to do that. you've set your settings up once. You just duplicate it for as many times as you need, and then put it into place. There you go. And that is pretty much it. There's one other thing that I'd actually quite like to do with this, and that means moving along to the brush, which we don't often use. So what I'm going to do is drag the exposure all the way down on the brush, and this is really so that we can see what we're doing here. We're going to take a dot here, expand it a little, and then we're going to paint on here like that, and here like that. And what I'm doing here is just kind of highlighting the basic bits of the shape. We don't want to rely too much on the edges of the brush, because it will look awful if you do that. So you want just really basic, simple lines here. We'll do it up here as well. And then we're going to go to the erase thing, and we're just going to make sure that where we've got these odd bits that are sticking out, that we're cutting those off. There's not a lot we need to do here. Most of this looks pretty good. And then we're going to essentially we're going to just take all of that off, and then we're going to drop back the exposure on here. And you can see as I'm doing it, it's like the leaves, the stem rather, is getting a bit more shape to it, which is what we want there. So again, let's take this off, take it on, and see the difference there. Now again, there's a few things that I might want to change. I might want to sort of start to erase some of these bits here, because they don't quite look right, but I think most of this is I'm pretty happy with it. Just over there. Okay, so there is that. Now, the final thing, you can see actually here, in this particular shot, I actually prefer the blues that are in this to over here, where we've got these really, really sort of bright, vibrant blues. And I would quite like to have those blues a lot more muted, so that the flower itself is the thing that's coming out. And it's really simple to do that. We're just going to take our blue channel and take the blue channel all the way down, and then just start to bring that up until it's kind of where you'd roughly want it. I quite like it there. There's enough blue there to kind of show the tone of the sky, but at the same time you've got a really nice dynamic snowdrop in there as well. And that's it. That's our final image. Now, I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen today. It's not been as long a tutorial as usual, although there's been a little bit of rambling at the beginning, which always sort of takes up a little bit of time. I know that. However, if you've liked what you've seen, then please do leave a like, leave a comment, and what's most important actually is show this to other people. If there are other people who you think could benefit from seeing these types of tutorials, could benefit from seeing somebody doing not just the same type of image again and again and again every week, but could see, different styles of images, different types of images, that's what I quite like to do. I did mention in the last video as well, if there is something that you would specifically like to see on the channel, I would love to make those videos for you. So if there is something like that, do let me know. I will gladly take a look into doing that and making something specifically for you, the audience, and not something that is kind of beholden to people who actually don't watch the channel in the first place. That's really important to me, and of course subscribing to the channel really, really helps me out, because the more people I can see are actually interested in it, the more motivation it gives me to actually go out and make these things in the first place. So if you did like it, please click the subscribe button, click that little bell icon at the end. That's it for me for this week. I don't know where we are next week because I haven't recorded the videos yet, but do join me on that. We're going to have another photo trip and, of course, another Lightroom edit the week after. So I hope you enjoyed all of that stuff. And until then, thanks for watching and goodbye.